Hi, everyone. I wanted to create a short video on terms that we're going to be using in the class because I find from year to year when I teach this course that there's a particular sticking point with a lot of students in the class, rightfully so, around understanding the differences between certain terms. This is totally understandable because, I swear if you get 10 evaluators in the room, they're going to call the same thing by a different name, or they're going to have the same name but use it in a different way, especially terms like objectives and outcomes. And so, because even in the field, there are differences, and if you go into your school districts or places that you work and you look at their glossary of terms, you too might see that their own definition of an outcome or a goal or a vision statement or a mission statement, is slightly different than what you read someplace else. So for the purposes for this class, I just wanted to walk through these different terms and how I'd like us to see them as being different. You'll be creating program evaluation documents and be asked to use these terms. And so having sort of a common nomenclature will be useful to us. So the first one, and I'm going to be toggling between me and my computer because I have a document that I've written down some examples and definitions, and this is shared with you on the Moodle site as well. So the first one is the word goals, right? So our big, over here, there we go, big, lofty aims. So what are the aims that we're even creating our program to do, to attempt? And generally, the aims for our program or our goals for our program will either be ones that we choose ourselves based on something of importance in society, right? Child well-being, children's health, parent mental health, whatever, right? Or they could be ones that the people we work for or our funder, a stakeholder has given to us. It's kind of the reason that they're paying for, or the public is paying for, our ECFE program to exist. Okay, so if we step back and we think, well, what is the value of this program? Generally, it's going to relate to some larger, some overarching goal. So with that, I'm going to put me down here, over here, and we're going to look at my document here. So if we think about our goals, so our goals here would be to serve the purpose of determining whether the vision or mission of an organization, say, is being carried out effectively. It can also be goals or the criteria that our program's success is judged. It can be what will happen as a result of the program. And some examples, and we're going to be talking a lot about goals and how you write goal statements and are goal statements clear and that sort of thing. But here are two. So this one relates to an interest, say, of literacy rates among children. So children's literacy is something that as a society we care about. And so that relates to what program we're offering. So significantly increase the literacy rates among children with reading difficulties at this school by implementing a program. Another goal that might be a little closer to what we might do is to reduce child abuse, right? Reduce child abuse in a county. So child abuse being a societal aim. Okay, we don't want children abused, so that's important. But through improved parenting techniques with who? With parents with children under the age of 5. So our kind of focus here for our program is to reduce child abuse, but how? Through improved parenting techniques. And so with our research, that we know of the relationship between how parenting might relate to that aim, that societal aim of reducing child abuse, that starts to give us some shape for the next thing, which could be the development of a program to reach that. But our goal, right, is this larger aim that we have for the whole purpose for our program. Right? An indicator is the next thing. And an indicator is quite simply something that indicates, that represents something else. You'll see the word indicator in this course and in other places used, again, in a variety of ways. In some ways, we can think of a societal indicator. So how healthy is our society based on rates of child abuse? And how do we look at, child abuse as a societal indicator? We might look at reports of child abuse to, reports of child abuse to Child Protective Services as an indicator of child abuse. Another we might also look at our parent quality indicators as coming from the Parent Education Core Curriculum Framework and indicators. And if you took 5944, you're very, very probably too familiar with this document. And again, these are representations of parent quality. And in the PECCFI, there are 5 different domains. And in identifying whatever your program goals are, you identify then those domains, the categories, the classifications, and the individual indicators related to that in developing your program, right? And so in this case, if we're looking at, again, improved parenting techniques, and we know from our research literature about that combination between parenting techniques and parent-child abuse, then we might choose, say, an indicator related to parent-child relationships. And the indicator would be parents respond to their child in sensitive, supportive, and caring ways. Another indicator, and this one from the domain of parent development, is that parents maintain overall personal, physical, and mental health needs and manage stress, right? As stress in the individual definitely relates to their patience, their ability to think through and identify additional strategies rather than resorting to physical punishment with their children. So it's just, these are representations, these indicators are representations of our goal of improved parenting techniques. And for us, the indicators are also really, really helpful to help us then design our program. And again, if you took the curriculum course, you use those indicators of parent quality or parent-child relationships as a basis for designing the topics, the activities, your pedagogical strategies, the materials that you were going to use, and structured those into your larger program, okay, your program. And basically, the program is the effort that we put into trying to address our long-term or our big, lofty aim, right? And the indicators help give that some structure. So we've kind of narrowed down based on what we know in the research literature related to that goal and related to what we're going to be doing in that program, gives us our sense of where indicators are. Then we have our program. So that's easy. You've done 5944. You've created your program. And as you're creating that program, you're also thinking not only of those goals, but as a result of your program, what can you demonstrate? What are your results? What are the results of your program as related to that goal, right? So outcomes state how it will be determined if goals have been achieved. They will state who will change, by how much, they're measurable, and this is very key. We'll also be talking a lot in the class about writing measurable outcomes because we don't want vague terms that if you read that outcome, you're really not sure how somebody's going to document it. You should be able to read that outcome and very clearly immediately see in your head, is this a survey? Is this qualitative? Did somebody do an interview with that parent? Did somebody do an observation of the child? Was there some sort of a form that was filled out? How is that outcome measured? And so here's some examples of a couple outcomes. So thinking of our child literacy rate program, by the end of the school year, all children who receive this tutoring will A, maintain at least a B- average in reading. We step back and we can think, how do you measure that? You look at kids' grades, right? Another one is to score above the 75th percentile on the Woodcock-Johnson Revised and the Wyatt. So those are 2 reading tests. And so that's another way that you're measuring, but you're indicating in your outcome that measurement. Right? So another one more related to our look at parenting would be, say, that by the end of a 12-week semester of parenting classes in ECFE, parents who attend at least 75% of the sessions, we want to be realistic, right? We don't expect parents to be there every single time, so we want to give ourselves some wiggle room. But parents who attend at least 75% of the sessions will demonstrate practices to guide misbehavior that do not use physical punishment. Okay, so just stop and think, how would you document that? How would you measure that? One way would be through observation. So perhaps you would set to having, observing parents and their children during parent-child interaction time, maybe other times around the ECFE experience, and over time, as you've observed that parent, do you see changes in their interactions with their child? Another objective, or another outcome rather, would be that parents who attend at least 75% of the sessions will report decreased feelings of stress due to increased use of supports for emotional, practical, and informational assistance. Okay? And again, so report decreased feelings of stress. To me, that could be something like you ask parents to keep a journal, right? You've been talking about stress as a source for, in your parent development piece, and you ask parents to keep a record of their feelings of stress each week, and what are triggers for their stress, and how are they managing stress, things like that. A way that they're managing stress could be the use of external supports, other people in their lives for information and advice, for somebody that they go to for a hug, for validation, somebody that they go to for practical assistance, somebody to watch their children when they go to work, or go to the store, something like that. And so parents are documenting that in some sort of a journal, perhaps, over time. Or you ask parents to do something when they begin the class, and to identify what is their stress and how do they manage their stress and who do they go to for support. And maybe again at the end of the program you ask them to fill out the same kind of thing. But the key point with both of these is that as you read the outcome, it's very clear. The outcome very much relates to what your goal is. It very much relates to what you're going to be doing in the program, and it's measurable. Okay? The last thing, and with this we're going to be thinking more about individual sessions within the program, is the word objectives. So an objective is simply, in our case, an intention. So what do I plan to do in this session? What do I plan for my participants, or hope that my participants will do in this session? What do I intend that my participants will be able to do as a result of attending this session, right? So the objectives. And of course, from creating, the curriculum, is that your objectives and all the times that you write lesson plans are very much keyed to whatever is going on in that particular session, what the topic is of the session. So it's broken down into digestible pieces. So you may have a particular lesson just on sources of support for the parent. You may have a session just on alternative strategies for guiding children's misbehavior. You may have a session just on what is developmentally appropriate responses to children based on their behavior, whatever. And so the objectives are going to be very closely tied, of course, to whatever that topic is and what your intentions are for what you will provide or what you expect the parent will do. And what I really like is that if we can discern the differences between what I would call a lesson objective or a session objective, that's more from your perspective about what you'll provide, what the parenting educator, and if you look here, the parenting educator will review aspects of child development. The parenting educator will present information. A participant objective is more what you expect the participant to be able to do. Parents will learn alternate strategies to guide misbehavior. Very critically is for you to also, even if you don't measure it, to have a sense of how do you know? How do you know that this objective has been met? So we use these sort of vague words like will learn. Well, how do you know they've learned? And that's where you might also consider a session participant outcome. So what are some ways that at the end of that session, you know that perhaps the parent has learned, or that the parent really has reflected on members of their support system? So So when we're creating our lesson plans, our objectives are really the intentions of what we intend to do or what we hope